do actually enhance not only corruption but also terrorism. That's why it's another priority for us to work together against it.
Talking about this, one of the ideas being floated about is something like a sort of I guess I could call it a modified Anbar strategy, which is to empower local tribal chiefs, to work with them, to enlist them in support for the national effort against the Taliban, and then to begin negotiations with them and incorporating them, including some of the elements that are called Taliban, to create a broader national consensus rather than just the presidency itself. How would you feel about that approach?
That's an important component of the strategy. One has to be a little bit more careful because the traditional institutions in Afghanistan, the tribal structures, have been undermined because of the 30 years of war and violence. So one has to be very careful not to actually re-empower the warlords and the militias and others. And there's a really fine line to work with the true tribal leaders but not to actually empower the undesirable element. One reason that we are we are facing the challenges that we are facing in Afghanistan, that there has been underinvestment in Afghanistan in the term of development, in the term of sending soldiers, in working with the Afghan government, the Afghan people. So that will work provided that we provide the necessary resources for the military operation and development. But if it could not be a substitute for other plans that we are implementing in Afghanistan.
I read two lengthy reports in different U.S. newspapers in the last 2 weeks, both of which led me in different directions. I read a piece in the Washington Post, I think it was on Sunday, saying that Mullah Omar is a brilliant strategist who, despite his lack of learning and his handicap, etc., is on the verge of a military conquest in large parts of the country. I read another piece arguing there really isn't a Taliban. There are several insurgent groups, some tribal, some warlord-led, but everything is being called Taliban. Anybody that shoots at you is called Taliban. Which is it? Is the Taliban a cohesive force under Mullah Omar? Is he the general orchestrating this massive insurgency? Or is it a more diffuse kind of insurgency, very complex, that needs a different approach than one head control and command downward?
No, Mullah Omar has never been really a charismatic leader. He was put in charge of the Taliban by foreign intelligence agencies, and he never provided a clear vision.
Pakistan.
Meaning Pakistan, yes.
Yeah.
Never provided a clear vision for the Pakistani movement. But who are the Taliban? You're absolutely right, they are not a monolithic group. 10% of those who call themselves Taliban are ideological elements who have been affiliated with Al-Qaeda, have been working with Al-Qaeda for a long time. Those have to be eliminated through military engagement. The remaining 30% are elements who have been antagonized, either by military operation by NATO, by Afghan government, by recruited by narco-traffickers or others. That group should be engaged politically and economically. But the remaining 60% are mostly illiterate young Afghans who've been promised paradise or $300 a month that will carry some of the suicide bombing and terrorist activities.
Why has it taken so long to build a national army?
In Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Because there's no resources. Look, initially...
We haven't provided enough money?
No. You've set a ceiling of 70,000 for the Afghan National Army, which is, if you use any military calculations, you need at least 400,000 strong army for Afghanistan. 700,000 strong army and police force was built for Iraq. In Afghanistan, the ceiling was 70,000. So now we are getting the necessary resources to increase this number. That's why I mentioned about underinvestment in building.
General McChrystal is asking for 40,000 troops, and people doubt that actually the president will go that high. But even if he does, it will take 4 to 5 months for those troops to get on the ground. How precarious is the military situation in the country? And is it possible that unless an alternative strategy is developed that doesn't involve a massive influx of new troops, that by the time the new troops get there, the situation will be so deteriorated that it will be difficult to salvage?
No, I think these troops are needed, and they are needed fast in Afghanistan. And the demand for the troop is part of many other changes that has taken place. including making a priority for the protection of the Afghan citizens and Afghan populations. We understand that it will take some time for this troop to be deployed, but at the same time, if the United States shows the commitment to send additional troops, the NATO countries will participate even stronger.
Britain today, not today, it's in the paper today, but yesterday announced an additional 500 contingent upon some conditions on the government to perform better, deal with corruption, etc., and also on U.S. and other NATO countries chipping in. There was one comment that I saw in the paper, and I don't mean to be insulting here, but I want to put it up. It was by a conservative MP who said, anybody believing that an Afghan army composed of different ethnic groups is going to defeat the Taliban is living in a political cloud cuckoo land. Argue with Sir Peter Topsell.
That's ridiculous. An army is composed of different ethnic groups anywhere in the world. The U.S. Army, the British Army.
Is national cohesion possible? I think that might be behind his rather rude way of saying it.
Of course, the national cohesion is possible. They should look at the history of Afghanistan and the war that Afghanistan
carried. But I think that's the problem. Americans don't know the history of Afghanistan. What they remember is the Russians were out, we supported the Mujahideen, there was tribal war going on for many years, and then the Taliban put an end to it. There was a period of stability, but ruthless stability, and then Al-Qaeda struck.
That's unfortunate because for many people Afghanistan starts with the Soviet invasion. That's not the case. Afghanistan is a country of the Buddhas, which are 5,000 years old. Afghanistan has been a crossroad of cultures and civilizations for many, many years, connecting India to Siberia and China all the way to Greece. So it's been a central part of the civilization on that part of the world. Myself, I give you an example. I went to a French lycée in 1960s. I went to a law school in Kabul. My educations are mostly in Afghanistan. So, in that country, in 1960s, we had the women serving in the parliament, and the senator, as teachers. The country was start actually to deteriorate with the Soviet invasion. But the state institution, government institution existed. And all, with all due respect to this member of MP, you should read the history of British history and their fight and defeat in Afghanistan.
I'm not going to have time to get to callers who are holding because I have one more question for you, and I'm sorry that caller. We'll get to the next segment. Are you satisfied today with the performance of Pakistan?
We are satisfied with the performance of the civilian government. They are sincere in their commitment to fight extremism. We are asking the military to do more.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ambassador. Up next, Congresswoman Lynn Woolsey, and we'll take some calls. Don't go away. Thank you so much.